want to talk from the thought bouncing back from a setback. My favorite sermon by our late founder is Down But Not Out. That is my favorite sermon. And I can tell you scripture, I can tell you points. That's my favorite sermon. But also one of the most memorable sermons from my childhood was the sermon Bounce Back Ability. How many folks remember that? And what I remember the most about that sermon was the rock'em sock'em. And see, we've aged ourselves when we remember what rock'em sock'ems are. Because it was the punching bag toy that when you hit it, it went all the way to the ground, but it bounced back. Now, I cannot tell you, I'm just being honest, I can't tell you what all of Bishop's sermon entails, but I do remember the word bounce back ability sparked in me an understanding that it was the God-driven ability to recover and regain one's footing after we have encountered a setback on this life journey. And what I gained from it was that the setbacks are diverse in nature. Some of us have similar setbacks, but there are those of us, we have a whole diversity of setbacks. They're diverse in nature and can be both the result of our own doing. Let's tell the truth. Some of our setbacks, we created the situation. But then some of our setbacks are the result of circumstances that are totally beyond our control. But I want you to understand there is a certainty in setbacks. If you keep living, you're going to have some setbacks. Am I talking right in here? Some can talk about financial setbacks, where you thought you were headed towards a certain street of dealing with your debt, and all of a sudden there is a leak in the roof. All of a sudden your car stops running. All of a sudden the heating unit goes out. Somebody knows about a health setback. There was a diagnosis you were totally unprepared for. There are those in you who know about the job setback. You served that job diligently and faithfully, but they called you in the office and said they had to do some corporate downsizing. Some young person knows about the school setback. You actually tried to pass the test, but unfortunately what you studied wasn't on the test. And you know about a school setback. Whatever the case may be, saints of God, keep living, and setbacks are certain. How many folks have had your share of setbacks? Write this down. If you're going to indeed bounce back from a setback, you've got to understand that your setback is time restricted. Oh, somebody ought to praise him right there. Because see, some of us have become so used to the setback that we think it's going to be all the days of our life. But I want you to know that the setback, whatever your setback may be, your setback is time restricted. You won't have to be in this situation always. How many folk know about the time restricted setback? Because you have a relationship with some setbacks that didn't last forever. And somebody said, well, Drumwright, I hear all that talking and I hear what you're saying. But how do you know that it's time restricted? If you look at what Paul says in Romans 18, for I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. Let me say it one more time because some of y'all are looking at me crazy. I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. That's God's way of letting us know whatever you're going through, you can rest assured in knowing that the glory is coming. I want you to tell somebody sitting around you, tell them like you mean it, tell them the glory is coming. Tell them the glory is coming. And what is the glory? It's when God shows up. When God shows up wherever you need him to show up at. And let me tell you something, sometime you got to look at your setback and you've got to tell your setback, whatever it is, finances, relationship, whatever, if it's health, you've got to say, whatever, the glory is coming, the glory is coming. Don't think you done took up residence here. The glory is coming, the glory is coming. Sometimes you got to walk through the house while your children are asleep. The ones that done got on your last two nerves, the ones you've been trying to get to act right, you just got to put your hand on the door and just keep professing that the glory is coming. The glory, anybody know what I'm talking about? You've got to walk through your job sometime and folk don't even need to know what you're doing, and just say in your spirit, the glory is coming. You've got to look at the fractured status of your relationship and say, I don't care what anybody says, the glory is coming. Can somebody just holler out, the glory is coming? Jesus, this is one of those things that I never paid attention to. Said when Jesus saw him, I never paid attention to that. Said he saw him lying there. And this is the other thing he said, and learned. Not only did he see him, said, and learned that he had been in the condition for a long time. He asked him, do you want to get well? When Jesus saw him lying there and learned. Let me tell you why somebody needs to be thanking God for that. Because not only does he see us on the surface, man looks at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. He can see things about us that nobody else can see, because some of us know what it's like to put on the cosmetic smile. Anybody know what I'm talking about? You dressed up over all your hurt. You put makeup on over all your pain. You put a necktie and a suit coat over all your burdens. And while other folk cannot see just how broken you are, we serve a God who not only sees you on the external, but he sees the depth of your heart. See, but not only does he see us, he takes time to learn about our condition. Oh, I'm telling you, that's where if somebody really know the depth of that, they'd be shouting and running out the door. Because let me tell you why it's so important that he has learned about our condition. When he learns about our condition, what he does is line up everything that we need to happen so that we can have our condition dealt with in the right way. Because when you are bouncing back, you need to write this down. Understand that Jesus sees us and he has learned about our setback. And let me tell you something, the blessing in that Jesus has learned about it. Some folk, they think, well, why are they doing such and such? They don't know nothing about us. They don't know what we've been through. They don't know what we've come over. They don't know the brokenness that we've walked around with. That's why stop judging folk and you don't know their story. Yeah, they jump up and down and holler every Sunday, but you don't know that God set them free from something. Yeah, they loud and they cut up and then they run from wall to wall. But see, just because that ain't how you handle what God has done. Don't ever judge someone without having learned what they've been through. And some of us can testify. People made certain judgments about us, but they didn't know the story. They didn't know the burden. They didn't know the pain. They didn't know the frustration. They didn't know the times we went without. Yeah, they see where you are now, but they don't know the time you scrounged. times and put 2 pennies here and 3 pennies there, sat in the dark, didn't have no food on the table, and they want you to sit there and act like God ain't done nothing for them. Somebody in here knows that you thought you were out, but God showed up for you, and that's why when you hear them say he may not come when you want him, but he's always on time, that's your life story. You got a PhD in God showing up for you on time. Trying to get in. Someone else goes down ahead of me. But see, let's tell the truth. That ain't the question that Jesus asked. Do you want to get well? Because, sometimes I've asked people, and people have asked me, do you want such and such? Are you hungry? And I said, well, when I think about it was really a yes or no question. But let me just be empathetic with this invalid man. See, for 38 years, he's been in this situation. For 38 years, he's had to wrestle with the challenges and the dysfunctions that have come as a reason of him being in that condition. For 38 years, he's had to deal with physical challenge, emotional challenge, social ostracizing. For 38 years, he's had to look at folk, finger point at him, whisper. Psst. Oh, y'all better put yourself in this text. For 38 years, he has been conditioned to his situation, so that when his opportunity to come up from his setback comes, he's been so conditioned for 38 years that he almost misses his blessing. Y'all better hear me in temple today. And let me write this. If you don't get anything else, get this point today. If you're going to bounce back from your setback, don't become so conditioned to your setback that you give yourself an excuse not to bounce back. All of us have a story. Am I talking right in here? All of us have something that we have gone through, but don't let that become your excuse for not seizing the opportunity to bounce back when it comes your way. And let me tell you, some of us, we think it's prideful, or we think it would be prideful to seize on an opportunity. Let me tell you something. My mama told me this when I went to Harvard. She said, now you're going up there, they paying for you to go, but we ain't got that kind of money to send you. She said, so if you get an opportunity that you know that you will never get again, she said, and somebody tells you they're going to pay for you to get the opportunity, she said, you better take it when it comes, because it may never come your way again. And there were times that I almost bypassed on opportunities because my pride would not allow me to say I didn't have any money. And one of my classmates, his mother and father owned 3 homes on Martha's Vineyard. And they asked me, did I want to go for spring break? And the first thing out of my mouth was, I don't have any money. And his response was, did I ask you about any money? Because the truth be told, I had never been to Martha's Vineyard. I only heard about Martha's Vineyard, and I was about to miss my chance to get a free ride to somewhere I had never been, because I was going to allow my condition. Y'all better hear me in temple today. Somebody knows about some things that God has orchestrated to come your way simply because of your relationship with him through Jesus Christ. And when you have relationship through Jesus Christ, God will give you favor. People will open doors. Folk will give you opportunities that are only coming because of Jesus.